All right, AP Environmental. We are about to start the new semester this week, and I want to spend a little bit of time today just kind of going over the AP exam, because that is kind of on the horizon, I suppose. So I want to talk a little bit about the test today. We haven't talked too much about it, but second semester, we're going to spend a lot of focus on this and kind of preparing ourselves for this exam. So, just right off the bat, I want to make sure everybody is aware that the exam is scheduled for May 14th. There has been no um, information given as to if the exam is going to be at home, if it's going to be given in person. We are going to go ahead and assume that we are going to be taking this exam in person in school on May 14th, unless I hear otherwise. Last year, with the pandemic, the kids actually took it at home on their computers. I don't think that's going to happen this year, but who knows what's going to happen. All right, so we're going to proceed as if the exam again is going to be given in school like it normally would be. So May 14th, 12 o'clock noon. That is on a Friday. Now, the exam takes a little bit less than 3 hours. So you'll be getting done at about 3 o'clock ish or so. So if you have an after school activity that day, you might be a little bit late. Just make plans for that. We'll talk more about that as we get closer to the date. The cost of it is free. You're all registered for it. All you have to do is just show up for the exam. All right, it's a free test. All right. Um, if you're not familiar with the scoring of the exam, maybe this is your first AP test, maybe not, but it's based on a 5 point scale. 1 through 5, one being the lowest, five being the highest, and basically, if you score a 3 or higher, you have an opportunity to get college credit. That does kind of depend on the university that you're going to, but I mean, most public universities, around the country are going to accept this as some form of college credit for you. So, 3 or better is kind of what we are shooting for on this exam. And to me, really, to be honest with you, if you get a 3, it means that you've most likely, learned enough information to deserve that college credit. So, really, again, that's kind of the goal here. Where we're kind of shooting for a score of 3 or higher. All right. Now, in addition to possibly earning college credit, because I think that's kind of the ultimate goal, kind of the ultimate incentive is to achieve that. Um, I do provide some incentive as well for my course. Not every AP class does this, but I think it's kind of relevant to do it. I think it's something that might kind of keep you guys a little bit motivated. But if you score a 3 on the AP test, I will make sure that you receive nothing less than a 75% for the second semester in my class. So if you have a 68 and you get a 3, I will automatically make sure you get a 75. Okay. If you have an 87 and you get a 3, then you get no reward. All right. Because you're already above a 75 and really it's kind of expected of you. So, um, the point there is I'll make sure you don't have anything lower than that. All right. Might this help some kids? Maybe. I mean, I would think most students who get a 3 probably already have greater than a 75% in my class, but there's always somebody that might have a 68 or something and get a 3 and whatever. So that's there for you. Now, oops, if you score a 4, I'll make sure that you receive nothing less than an 85% for the second semester in my class. So here's a little bit more of an incentive for you guys to have some higher grades. Maybe you've got an 81 or something, like a B minus, and you score a 4 on the test. I'll make sure that you get up to an 85. Of course, if you already have more than an 85, you don't really have much of an incentive here. But it does kind of give some kind of an incentive for kids who have less than that. And of course, if you score a 5, I will make sure that you receive nothing less than a 95% for the second semester in my class. All right. So again, this kind of rewards the kids who are already doing pretty well. Maybe you've got an A minus in my class and you get a 5 on the test, and I'll make sure you get that solid A. Um, I will say this about kids who get 5s. Okay. Um, Most kids that get 5s are already up there in the A range. Again, they probably don't have C's, they probably don't have D's, they probably have pretty high grades. But again, the incentive is there. So I will make sure that I do those things for you if you achieve those specific grades. I think that's fair. Okay, if you get a 1 or a 2, you get nothing. Okay, but 3s, 4s, or 5s, at least there's a little something there for you to go by. Okay. All right. A little bit about the scoring history. I kind of want to just sort of show you what you're, I guess, kind of up against. I've been teaching this class. This is my 4th year teaching it, so I'm going to show you the 3 years of data that I've collected. And this goes back to 2018. Um, our average score on the test back in 2018 was a 2.15. Remember, it's a 5-point scale. In Indiana, the average was a 2.37. So you can kind of see that getting 3s, 4s, and 5s are not that easy. Um, it says here the percentages of 3s, 4s, and 5s at Crown Point, we had a 30%, like 30% of the kids got those scores. But in Indiana, 39% got them. Now, this was 3 years ago. First year I taught the course, we weren't perfect. I wasn't perfect either as a teacher, I suppose. But, after teaching it for a year, I learned a few things and we got a little bit better because in 2019, our scores were much higher. Our average was 2.52. We were higher than the Indiana average, which is good for me. I like that. I like seeing that. Our percentages of 3s, 4s, and 5s went up to about 43%. In Indiana, it was 41%. So Indiana went up a little bit, but so did we. We went up quite a bit that year. And then finally last year, I got to remember last year was kind of the pandemic. So, but again, our average scores went up again. The Indiana average went up a little bit as well, but we were above that. And of course, our percentages of 3s, 4s, and 5s went up just a smidge to 44. Indiana was at 45. So we were about the same, pretty close to that. Um, so I'm starting to think that maybe like this is sort of these two sets of data here are kind of maybe the norm. Okay, kind of take maybe average that type of stuff. But my goal as a teacher, and I kind of that I set for myself and what I kind of want you guys to attain is that I want you guys to score higher than the Indiana average, both in average score and also as far as percentages of 3s, 4s, and 5s. And we've done that for the most part for 2 years running. And I'd like to continue that, so we need to make sure we prepare and, I'm going to do my best to make sure we kind of achieve that goal as well. So it's kind of an incentive for me to kind of stay motivated and to make sure that you guys learn the material and present it to you in a way that you can understand it. Okay. So, but again, just kind of looking at this, it kind of shows you that like last year, for example, 44% of my kids got 3s, 4s, and 5s. That means that 56% of them did not. All right. So you got to kind of look at it as maybe about half of you will score 3s, 4s, and 5s, and the other half probably will not. But hopefully it'll be a little bit better than that, but who knows? All right, if you go by history, that's kind of where we're sort of at. All right. Study guides. A lot of kids ask me, do I need to buy like a study guide or a book for this, to prepare myself? And I tell kids no. I mean, you don't really have to go out and purchase anything. I think I've provided you guys with plenty of class notes. You have your textbook, you've got Buzz resources, you got the AP videos, you got my videos. I don't really think we need to go out and buy anything else. If we do, it's probably just going to make things a little bit more confusing. I mean, I kind of stick to the course. I stick to what I think you should know. So I don't really think there's much of a reason to go out and purchase any additional materials or take a review class or pay for something. I just don't think it's really that necessary. Unless, of course, you just haven't been, you know, learning the material in my class, and I guess maybe you could do that. One thing I want you to remember, if you plan on winging it, like not preparing yourselves for this test, your chances of scoring well are probably not going to be very good. You're going to have to prepare. You're going to have to do a little bit of studying. The closer we get to the exam, the more we'll kind of worry about the preparation. But you really need to know the material to do well. This is not a hard test to score a 3 on. Again, about half the kids do score 3s or higher. But if you don't prepare yourselves, you probably don't have a shot at all. All right, so just keep that in mind. It's kind of like with any test, I suppose. All right, unit topics. This is pretty much everything that we're going to be expected to cover. This is where we currently are. This is where we were last year. We got through Unit 4 by the end of the first semester, which leaves us with 5 units to cover by May 14th. So I will tell you this: we are going to be going faster through this course. We're going to have to kind of ramp up the pace a little bit. There's going to be things that we have to do on Wednesdays over the weekend. There's going to be work as well. So we are going to have to stay on top of things. Some of you last semester did a very good job of that. Others did not. And it's going to get worse if you're going to procrastinate, wait till the last minute, wait till, the end of the 9 weeks to get things turned in. I mean, it's going to be a big mess because we're just going to be going a lot faster. And I'm going to be a lot less patient this semester as well. Last semester I was pretty patient. Not this semester. We need to start cranking it up a little bit and start behaving and approaching things like an AP student would. And again, most of you do that, but some of you, I think you need to look in the mirror a little bit. All right. The exam format. We've talked about this briefly before, but there's a multiple choice question set. There's a free response section as well. The multiple choice is 80 questions. It is worth 60% of the exam, and you will have 90 minutes to take that part of the test. So that's a little bit more than 1 minute per question. Make sure you answer them all because you don't get penalized for wrong answers, but you won't get it right if you don't put an answer at all. So you need to make sure you answer every single question. I will remind you of that before the test. And then, of course, there's the free response, which is 3 question sets and you get 70 minutes to answer that. This is worth 40% of the exam. It's about 23 minutes per question set. All right. Now, of those 3 questions, 4 question sets, I should say, there's like multiple parts to it. The first question, you will be asked to design an investigation. And you might be like, wait a minute, we haven't been doing any of that in classroom, this year. And we really haven't done very much. And I do that for a reason. We'll be doing a little bit more of that second semester, okay, talking about how we would set up a scientific investigation to test certain things or a hypothesis or whatever. So we will get into that a lot more this semester and look at some questions that are designed to help us understand that. Question 2, you'll be asked to analyze an environmental problem and propose a solution. In my opinion, this will probably be the easiest of the 3 questions. So when we actually sit down and take the exam, that might be the question set that you go to first. So I think it will be the one that'll be the easiest for you to answer. and get the most points. Remember, there's 30 points on this. There's 10 points for each one. And the whole point of this is to get as many points as you can. So, I would attack the easiest question first, get those points, and then maybe go to the harder questions. Now, question three is most likely going to be the math-based question. There will be some calculations that you're going to have to do. Um, I'll be honest, they really haven't been that difficult the last couple of years. But just because it's math-based, it'll probably end up being the hardest of the three questions. But again, we'll just have to take a strategy when we go and take this. And just remember that these will be the three different formats to those question sets. All right. This is just kind of showing you sort of the different, I guess, types of questions that they're going to ask you. One thing I think we should sort of focus on, if you look at the multiple choice section here, between 30 to 38% of the multiple choice is just concepts. Like, do you understand the concept of a Hadley cell? I mean, do you understand the concept of plate tectonics? They're just kind of concept related questions. So, almost 40% of the exam is going to be that stuff. Visual representations, for example, pictures and graphs, whatever. Text analysis, that would be like reading a paragraph, you know. Scientific experiments, not much of that on the multiple choice, but there is a little bit more of that on the free response. Data analysis, where again they might give you a graph or a chart or something. Math, not a lot of math on the multiple choice. There's going to be a little bit more of that math on the free response. Environmental solutions, coming up with a solution to a problem. There's a good chunk of that on the multiple choice. There's even more of that on the free response. So this is just kind of how the exam is sort of broken down a little bit. Task verbs, we've talked a little bit about this. Myself over here, I guess. Things like calculate. If we're asked to calculate something, whatever, calculate doubling time of a population. Describe. I've asked you a ton of questions this year. Here's one: describe the changes in both the birth rate and death rate for a country, making the transition from a pre-industrial to an industrial society. That would be a description type of question. Of course, that would probably be a free response type of thing. Explain. Explain how characteristics of K-selected species, make them more prone to extinction than our selected species. So this is like kind of I suppose backing up your statement, I guess. Identify. Identify, I think, are kind of the easiest ones. Whenever you see the word identify, those are usually easy. Identify two ecosystem services provided by a forest ecosystem. You don't have to explain, you don't have to describe, you don't have to calculate, you have to identify. So that's all you have to do. So anytime we see that task verb, should be kind of easy for us. Justify or make a claim. These might be some of the harder task verbs. Justify a reason or make a claim as to why synthetic fertilizer use should be limited near local waterways. That's something that we have to kind of really kind of dig into and kind of think about, and give a reason why, for example, fertilizer should be limited. We have to really know our stuff to answer those types of questions. Propose a solution. Here's one: propose a solution as to how zebra mussel populations can be reduced in the Hudson River. This is one of those things where could be multiple answers. You just have to come up with one. All right, so chances are on the test, especially the free response, you will probably see all of these task verbs. And it wouldn't surprise me if you saw them all in one question set. Remember, a question set has multiple components to it. You might have a bunch of these task verbs, in that particular question set. All right, just wanted to show you just an example here of a question set, and we've been looking at different question sets all year, but this is kind of typical of what you might see. And in fact, this one here, this was taken off of an old AP test. This is an example of a free response question similar to question set number 2 that you might see. So here they give you this kind of a graphical representation. It might be a really good idea before you even answer anything to just look at that graph and ask yourself, what is this thing telling me? Read the description of the graph, right? Look at the title of the graph. Look at the axes on the graph. And then, of course, look at the actual data within the graph. Like, what is it showing us? And then just notice that there's, 5, or in this case, 4 different questions. And each one of them has sort of different subcomponents to it. You've got task verbs, right? You've got identify. Here's identify again, identify. When you see that word identify, again, those are probably the easier ones to answer. Describe, explain, describe. When you see those words, you need to probably give a little bit more than a one word or a one sentence answer. Propose a solution, justify. These would probably be the harder questions in the question set. But what you need to remember is you're trying to get as many points as you can. You're up against all these kids in the country. Chances are the average on this question set is probably going to be 5 out of 10. That's probably going to be the average. If you can get 5 points amongst all those questions, then you're probably doing okay. If you can get 6 or maybe 7, you're probably doing real good. If you can get 8 or 9, I mean, you're probably looking at getting a 5 on the exam. All right, so we need to approach it that way. Chances are you might see a question in here that you just have no idea. I don't know, let's say describe 2 impacts that global climate change can have on human health. Now, let's say you just have no idea. Well, that doesn't mean you're going to bomb the entire question set. It just means that you don't know the answer to that particular question. And that's okay. All right. Chances are you'll probably come across something that you may not know. Or maybe you just don't remember. All right. Don't panic. Answer everything else if you can. It's all about getting as many points as possible. All right, guys. There's some more to this PowerPoint. I put some. Here's some of the answers to some of those questions. I have another question set in here for you can look over if you want to. Some of these topics we haven't covered yet. Some of them we have. I even put some multiple choice questions in here for you to kind of just some practice things. But we'll do a lot more of this practice stuff as we get closer to the exam. I just wanted today to just sort of um, just kind of go over some of the just an overview of the actual test. All right, guys, I'll let you go. Take care, and I will see you soon.